Welcome to another special Media Pod Smash Halloween presentation. I'm going to be ranking the Friday the 13th franchise. You're all doomed. What makes me qualified to rank these? Well, nothing at all. But my friend Ryan and I did cover them pretty extensively in our podcast series, Vamping About Voorhees. And when I say extensively, I really mean extensively. Some of them went on for well over 2 hours, but it's easy to get carried away sometimes. Nothing gets me more pumped for the month of October than to dive in deep to some of these gems. So, let's take a look at number 10. Number 10, Jason Goes to Hell. At the 10th spot, I was really torn between X and this one. I can think back to my original viewings of both of them and visualize my expressions during the films. Something like... If I had to say which was worse though, it'd be 9. It's a convoluted mess that strays insanely far from anything we're familiar with. We learn about the Voorhees family, which sounds cool on paper, but in execution, sucks. After this long of a wait, people needed more. At least, I sure thought so. Not to say it's all bad. I love the opening sequence and music. And how could anybody not nerd out at Freddy's glove pulling the mask down at the end? For me, number 9 is the least fun and rewatchable of the series, and will always grace the top of my list. Number 9, Jason X. This was a bit of a struggle for me. When I was younger and viewed the film for the first time, I couldn't stand it. I was pissed that it messed up the timeline, pissed that they went to space, and fucking pissed that the franchise would probably never go back to its 80s slasher goodness ever again. I mean, come on! The metallic Jason mask? Was this a joke? As I grew older and rewatched the film, I came to realize that yeah, it kinda was. Knowing that there wasn't much more that they could do, this was the direction they decided to go. It was wacky and had plenty of great nods to the films that came before it. I grew from hating it to definitely having more of an appreciation for what they were trying to do. However, I still firmly believe it deserves its place right here on the ranks. Number 8, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I know that so far I'm not breaking much ground or giving any hot takes here. Most people would probably agree that the last 3 were the worst 3. But it's for good reason. In the case of this movie, it comes down to total lack of Manhattan. They said it was due to budgetary reasons that they had very little New York actually in the film. Well, okay, fine. Call it something fucking else then. The first half is a chore until they finally do reach the city, and then it's too little too late. Once there though, there is certainly some fun interactions and sequences, but it's just not enough. It's a damn shame too, because Kane Hodder really goes all out as Jason in this one. Unfortunately, his enthusiasm doesn't save this sinking ship of a film. Number 7, Friday the 13th Part 2. How do you follow up an iconic performance by the legendary Betsy Palmer and further expand upon a nightmarish universe? You don't. To me, Part 2 is a shaky mess. Although it captured a lot of the same vibes as the first, something seemed to be missing. Many kills breezed by too quickly, the lack of Savini really showed, and Jason isn't quite the badass we all grow to know and love quite yet. Some may argue that the progression is interesting, and well, I sort of agree with that. There's nothing like streamlined hockey-masked Jason. Part 2 has its place in my heart, but it is not one of my favorite rewatches. Number 6, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Much like Jason X, I used to really dislike Part 5, but it grew on me with time. If you are a big fan of the series, of course you know that the big reveal is that in this one, it's not Jason that's the main killer. Instead, it's a paramedic named Roy. He dons a similar mask throughout the film and takes revenge for the death of his son. The film is a pretty fun slasher fest with wacky characters, but the Tommy Jarvis plot leaves a lot to be desired. Also, the ending of the movie creates some issues for future canon. If you want some late night B-movie fun, 5 delivers on this. But if you want Jason Voorhees in all his glory, move on. Number 5. Part 7, The New Blood. Part 7 was interesting to me, as they kept the atmosphere and formula the same as the previous films, but brought in a brand new unique element, Tina Shepard. Tina was a psychic teenager with wild mental powers. Someone who could actually put up a real fight against Jason. She was a fantastic character. She was insanely likable and really kicked Jason's ass. Despite a few issues, Tina's dad, Part 7 is a fun movie from start to the epic showdown conclusion with the addition of an exploding house, because why the fuck not? Number 4, Part 4, The Final Chapter. The Return of Savini, the death of Jason, the performance of a young Corey Feldman. What more could you want out of a slasher? Senseless killing? Oh yeah, it's got that too. At this point in the series, Jason is now the notorious badass killer that we all grow to love. None of that slapstick potato sack on the head shit. The Final Chapter nails it in nearly every way, and it is an insanely rewatchable late night slasher. Number 3, Part 6, Jason Lives. I may anger some fans with this one, but I love Part 6. For a short time in my life, it even held the number 1 slot on my ranking. By this time, the filmmakers knew that the real superstar of this franchise always was and always would be Jason Voorhees. Part 6 embraced the absurdity and succeeded in not taking itself too seriously. From the gravekeeper breaking the fourth wall to the absolutely ridiculous kills. Part 6 is just a fun ride. A little corny at times, but very rewatchable and deserving of its place in the highly coveted top 3 slot. Number 2, Friday the 13th. Perhaps more wrath would be coming my way with this one, but for me, while Part 1 is an excellent film, it's not my number 1. From an effects standpoint, the Savini effects are awesome. Upon recent reviewing, some of them even hold up pretty well. The performances of both Betsy Palmer and Adrienne King are engaging and enjoyable to watch. This is especially true during Pamela's final moments. The only thing that kept me from placing it at my number 1 slot was its rewatchability factor. It's probably the slowest of all the films, which is what they were going for, but if I had only one movie to show to a person brand new to the franchise, it would definitely be Number 1, Friday the 13th, Part 3. What screams "you're in for one hell of a fun ride" more than ridiculous 3D and a catchy disco theme? In my humble opinion, almost nothing. As if that's not enough, Jason is extremely streamlined and gets his iconic hockey mask for the very first time. He is not fucking around in this one. Whenever the subject of Jason comes up and I conjure up an image in my head, it's always the Jason from this one. Part 3 is a film that I remember most fondly from my childhood, and one that I will consistently revisit each year. At the end of the day, you can't really go wrong with any of these films. Well, except maybe 8 through 10. They are hammy and extremely cheesy at times, but I think that's what adds to the charm. It's part of the reason why myself and so many others will continue to make room for Jason in their hearts each and every year.